In today's video, we're going to be learning about the volume of cones, and this is going to correspond to Chapter 10, Section 2 of your textbook. So we're going to watch a demonstration of the relationship between the volume of a cone and the volume of a cylinder. So in this video clip that you're going to watch, you're going to see that the cones have the same diameter and they have the same height. So these were the same. So in the video, this person is putting water into the cone, so essentially showing the volume of this cone, and they're putting that volume of that cone into that cylinder. And there's a second time. And finally, there's a third time. So we can see in that clip that we had 3 cones, or 3 volumes of a cone, so 3 times the volume of the cone was equal to just 1 volume of a cylinder. Now this worked because, again, we had both of the cone and the cylinder having the same diameter and the same height. So when that happens, we see that 3 times the volume of a cone is equal to the volume of a cylinder. So we're going to use this to help us come up with what the formula is for the volume of a cone. So if we need 3 cones to make the volume of a cylinder, then we also know that 1/3 of a volume of a cylinder would then be equal to the volume of a cone. And we learned what the volume of a cylinder was in our last videos. So the volume of a cylinder is pi r squared times the height. So our volume of a cylinder is equal to pi r squared h, and I still have 1/3 in front. So I have 1/3, and that's equal to the volume of a cone. So now we've just came up with our formula that the volume of a cone is the volume of a cylinder, but 1/3 of it. So 1/3 pi r squared h is equal to a cone. So this is the formula that we're going to use for the volume of a cone. So let's take a look at our first example here. We're going to find the volume of a cone, and we're going to round our answer to the nearest tenth. So when we're given anything in geometry, again, we're going to identify what's being given. So if we look here, we've got 6 meters, and this represents the height of our cone. Then we have this 4 on the bottom, and that represents the diameter of the base of the cone. So now my next step is I'm going to write my formula for a cone. So my volume is equal to 1/3 pi r squared times the height. Next, I'm going to substitute the values that I do have, which is 1/3 pi, and it's asking for radius, but if I notice, I don't have the radius, I do have the diameter, which means then therefore my radius is equal to 2 meters, because it's going to be half of the diameter. So 2 squared times my height, which is 6. So now I have 1/3 pi, 2 squared is 4, times 6, and I have 1/3 pi, and then 4 times 6 is 24. So I have this. Now, this can also be written in another way. So it's good to notice that 1/3, if I kind of extend that fraction line across, right? And then I evaluate here, I've got 1 times pi on the top times 24. Well, that's just going to give me 24 pi and then over 3. And then hopefully you also can see that we can simplify 24 pi over 3. And that can be simplified if I divide the top and the bottom by 3. 24 divided by 3 would give me 8, and 8 divided by 3 would give me 1. So this actually does simplify to 8 pi. So I can leave my answer like this as 8 pi, and that would be the most exact volume of my cone that I have. Or, of course, I can evaluate that into my calculator and evaluate what 8 pi is. And 8 pi is going to give me 25.1327 0.7, and that's going to keep going, and I'm going to round to the nearest tenth, which is 25.1. Units are in meters, and we're still talking about volume, so it's going to be cubed. So I recommend that you try that out in your calculator. See what happens when you put 1/3 pi times 24, or as if you put 24 pi over 3. So see what answer you get, and then see if you get the same if you do 8 times pi. And you should get the same answer if you put this into your calculator or this. It should give you 25.1327, and it keeps going. So in our second example, we're going to find the height of a cone, and we're going to round our answer to the nearest tenth. So we've got the volume is equal to 956 feet cubed. I've got this 9 feet here, which represents the radius. And I've got my h, my height, and I have no idea what that height is, so that's my question mark, so I'm trying to find that out. So I'm going to do my volume formula. So volume is equal to 1/3 pi r squared h. Substitute what I know, so 956 is equal to 1/3 pi, my r is 9, squared h, which is equal to 1/3 pi times 81. H is equal to 956. So good habit here is to just simplify this section here. And if I want to simplify that section, if I just take that to the side here, 1/3 pi 81, well, I can really write this as 81 pi over 3. And I can simplify this. It's kind of nice numbers here. If we notice, I can divide both of these numbers by 3. 81 divided by 3 is 27. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So this is going to simplify just to 27 over pi. So if we go back into original work, then this makes 956 is equal to 27 pi, and then my height. And then from here, I notice that, well, 27 pi is just a number, right? So I'm going to divide both sides by 27 pi, divide here by 27 pi, and that's going to cancel. So my height is going to be equal to 956 divided by 27 pi. And in your calculators, you should be getting the answer of your height being equal to 11.27052, and that keeps going. We're going to round to the nearest tenth, so 11.3, and our units is going to be feet. Now for some of you, simplifying that 1/3 pi times 81 into this might be a little too difficult. So if we want to, from this step here, this step I'm looking at, let's highlight this so you guys can see it. From this step then, what you could have done, so just rewrite that, bring it down here. If we had 956 is equal to 1/3 pi times 81 and the height. So for some of you, it just might be easier to then just straight away divide both sides by 1/3 pi times 81 and then do that to both sides instead of simplifying. And then by doing that, this is going to cancel, right? So that you have now left your height is equal to 956 divided by 1/3 pi times 81. And then you can put that into your calculator, and you should still get the same answer, that you get 11.3 feet once you round it. So take a look at these two questions for you to try out on your own. Number 1 is similar to your first example we went over together, and number 2 is very similar to the second example that we went over together. So pause the video to try these two out on your own. Taking a look at our third example, we're going to find the radius of the cone. We're given the volume, and we are given the 9 inches here, which represents the height. So we're given the height, and we have this r here, and we're trying to figure out what the radius is, so this is our unknown. So next we have our formula, so our volume is equal to 1/3 pi r squared h. Substitute what we know. We've got 80 is equal to 1/3 times my pi, my radius squared, and my height in this case is 9. So I've got 80 is equal to, I'm just going to rewrite this, so I've got 1/3 pi and then 9 and then my radius out here. And I can simplify this part, right? So if I want to just put that over here, it's the same thing as 1/3 times pi times 9, all of that over 1, which is going to give me 9 pi over 3, which can be split up as to 9 over 3 times pi, and 9 divided by 3 is 3, so 3 pi. So that simplifies to 3 pi, and then r squared is equal to 80, and then I'm going to divide both sides by 3 pi, and then this is going to cancel, so I am left with 80 over 3 pi is equal to r squared. And if I have something squared to find out what r is, I'm going to have to find the square root of both sides. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So I'm going to have the square root of 80 over 3 over pi is equal to my radius. So if I put that into my calculator, I'm going to have that my radius is going to be equal to 0.91346. That's going to keep going. So let's round this to the nearest tenth, which we get 2.9 in our units in this case is inches. So again, like before, if simplifying is too much, so let's just take a look back from this part here. So if simplifying that 1/3 pi times 9 is too much for you, so let's just follow the green. So from that step then, what you could have done, I'm just going to write it again, 80 is equal to 1 over 3 pi 9 and then r squared. We could just divide both sides by 1/3 pi times 9 to both sides. And then that would make that this part here would cancel, so that you're left with your radius squared, so 80 over then 1/3 pi times 9 is equal to your radius squared. And then from there, you could just follow, just input that into your calculator by finding the square root of each. So you can choose to simplify it up here to make this section here a little bit easier and a little bit smaller for you, or you don't have to. You could go right from here to this and then find the square root of both sides to find out what r is. Either way, it's going to give you the same answer, so just kind of do what you are more comfortable with. So here we are at our last try question of the video. We're going to find the radius of this cone, and we're going to round our answer to the nearest whole number. So make sure we get all 3 questions done for this video, and we'll go over these in class. See you then!